Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's my absolute pleasure to invite you all along to this amazing event with two incredible educators. Tonight is all about emotional and nutritional support for neurodiverse brains, and I will be joined by Bron van der Geest, who is a health educator, and Kadon Campbell, who is an educational advocate and neurodiverse academic coach. So it is absolutely my pleasure to welcome them along. If you are ready, just make sure that you have a pen and paper because it's going to be packed with so much great information and we're going to leave questions to the end. So let me pass you over to Bron van der Geest.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Bron. Now, I've been in education for 4 decades and I'm also the mother of 5 incredible children and 4 beautiful grandbabies. I'd just like to say thank you to you because parenting in the 21st century is incredibly hard. Not only do you have all the extraordinary that's going on, but you've also got to navigate social media, internet safety. And when you add to the mix neurodiversity, you have a chemical cocktail overload that often tips the scales. Now, 3 of my children are neurodiverse. Their labels are ADHD and type 1 dyslexia. Another has a head injury that actually presents as autism. And our youngest child was born as neurotypical. This evening, I'm going to share our joy with our eldest boy. Our eldest boy was given many labels. From day one, he was a wonder boy. He was an out-of-the-box thinker. However, educators did not find him easy, and he most assuredly disliked him. I was really, really keen to walk a path less traveled in the 1990s, and the first area of change that we addressed was looking at the brain-gut axis. So I'm just going to skip through some of the slides there so you can see what these look like. So when we think of nutritional supports for the gut-brain axis, we're going to flip to, you guessed it, nutritional supports. Now, we need to have a dietary focus that's rich in antioxidants, high in fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, increase those good fats, have bioavailable protein sources, pre and probiotics. We've got to avoid as much as possible. This is the key one, processed foods. Now, recently, Harvard just released information and research on the dangers of processed foods for our mental health and well-being. And when we add neurodiversity into the mix, the gut-brain axis really suffers from this, especially with gluten, and avoid those fortified foods. If we can, we limit sugar and artificial food colouring. Now, we had to do this even with our eldest boy with things like tomatoes, strawberries, salami. Again, that's a processed food. Strawberries and tomatoes and mandarins were actually his favourite food. So trying to pull him away from that, yes, it was a logistical nightmare. Now, that gut-brain axis, next slide, as you can see, there is a link to neurodiverse symptoms. There's an imbalance, and it's really common with our neurodiverse children. That gut inflammation worsens the behaviours, and we would see this rapidly. If we say for our second child, he didn't have any challenges at all, none, absolutely a ray of sunshine. So he would ask to have McDonald's for his birthday. We knew if we went to McDonald's, yep, our second born boy, he was going to be fine. But for Nick, that was going to be a logistic nightmare. But how do you really do this and navigate it? Well, because the behaviors are going to change. And then you notice all the other parents in the space and their judgment of you and your child. But sometimes they need that little celebration, right? That little bit of deliciousness. It wasn't until Nick was about 9 that he realized when he ate that food, it made a difference for him and his peers. And he battled really hard with that, knowing that the outcomes afterwards would affect his mood, his social behaviours, the impact in his brain. And so he himself at the age of 9 decided he wanted to change that. He really wanted it to be different. He wanted different outcomes. And it wasn't for academic learning, it was for his social, emotional connection with his friends. Next slide. What did we do? Well, in that moment in time, back in the 1990s, we actually used a lot of omega-3 fatty acids. The scary thing with this particular product, and Nikki would get really upset, is that when he burped, it released a smell that he absolutely hated. You'll be pleased to know, and there's more information on this later, that there are incredible products out there now that don't do this. In the winter months, vitamin D was an absolute necessity. So we were often outside playing sport as a family because we noticed that during the winter months, all of the levels became lower and the mood would really change. Magnesium was added to his diet for nighttime, including probiotics and prebiotics. We would make our own yogurt. Now, of course, you've got incredible products out there that you can add to your diets if your child also has a challenge with milk products. Okay, and our next slide. Improving detoxification pathways. How do we do this? Well, when we do this, it helps so much. Those symptoms I was talking about for Nick, once we remove those, he saw the difference. That oxidative stress was gone. His liver was healthier. He was going, yes, he's probably not too happy with me with here sharing this, but he would go to the toilet more frequently because he wasn't blocked up. Those heavy metals were being released. He was improving his immune system and regulation. He was lowering that toxic load. And his behavior and mood were enhancing. And he wasn't so fatigued. But how do we do this? Please, you must put love at the heart of it. How do you balance it? It's love. You've got to turn that sticky little finger around to you and say, how can I make a difference? How can we help our child and jump into the arena and become your child's biggest advocate, even if it means going into school every day until someone connects and listens and responds. At intermediate, we shifted schools. His teachers informed me that he had no work ethic. He actually also, what we were told, had no morals, and he wouldn't even be able to be a rubbish collector because he didn't have the correct attitude. We left, we never returned. We found a school that listened. We found a school that responded. We found a school that met him where he was at. It's not easy working with a teenager, especially one who's neurodiverse. You see, our neurodiverse tamariki, they don't take kindly to being told what to do. And as young parents, as we were back then, we often implemented Plan A. More on that with the next slide. Now, Plan A, unfortunately, is where you have expectations of your child, and the teachers do at school, that they notice they're not meeting a particular level. You push the expectation onto the child, the teacher, the educators, and the parents, and then the child communicates, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Then you'll see it. The fallout is quite intense. And then you try really hard to de-escalate your child, and then it all falls apart. And so you move away from the child. You say the child goes to timeout. For Nikki, it was detention at school. He had so many of those. I think he had the school record. Plan A will always bring about a rise in the child's anger and unmet needs. So we went to what's known as Plan C. If we knew we didn't have a full tank and couldn't meet him exactly where he was, Plan C was a safer outcome for everyone in the household. Of course, the best outcome is Plan B. Plan B is where you sit alongside your child and you co-regulate together. And as you'll see with the next slide, when you co-regulate by bringing their storm to your calm, those changes happen. Your heart rate, when it's slower and it's at ease, that helps their heart rate to join yours. And there is so much research out now in regards to co-regulating and breathing slowly and carefully. When you notice that you have a storm, there's been an action with your child that does bring a disconnect for you, move away from that space. Notice that you're feeling all these uncomfortable energies. You can share that with your child, but move away from the space, because parenting a neurodiverse child when they're already in that storm is incredibly challenging. You need them to be ready and waiting for the 5 steps to self-regulation. Now, those 5 steps to self-regulation are: restore the energy. Find something they really love to do. For Nick, it was softball. He would be out in our backyard pitching again and again and again, restoring his energy until he felt that he was calm. If he couldn't get outside, he would rock on a rocking chair. We went through 5 lazy boy rocking chairs because of this continual need to move for Nicky to get back into his body and reset and be ready to reframe his behavior. And then together, we'd help him recognize what his stresses were. We try to reduce those stresses and reflect and enhance together what would be a better way going forward. Things that we did to help him, which definitely helped us as a family, with family meetings. And we do this once a week. We'd all come together and everybody would table something that they were finding challenging. Whether it was me expecting them to have all their Lego picked up off the floor, and if they hadn't, I'd come in and vacuum it, and they were very upset that their Lego was going missing. Or if it was me, because I wanted everybody to be together at dinner time, because that was really important for me to listen to what they were doing, how their day had gone. And over food, that's when magic happens. Having that dinner and fun time together is absolutely critical. But I know what this will look like for each of you, and your family dynamics is going to be very different. Something we did as a family for 25 years was play softball. The whole family together and all the neighborhood's children. We'd go up to the softball park in the summer months and we were all together. It's a great sport. One space, not having to drive here, there, and everywhere like we did when we were playing rugby. Yes, the whole 5, even our daughter, they all played rugby. Gary would be off here, I'd be off here, my parents would be off at another place, and then we'd all come back and try to meet together again. But for each of you, it's going to be different. But there is a really good saying: a child in sport stays out of court. But how do we, us, find the energy to look after ourselves when we have the complexity of a neurodiverse child? What can we do to allow our central nervous system to decompress? A way that supported us and our family, as you'll see from the next slide, is really honouring that gut-brain axis, practicing mindfulness. It's a powerful tool in nurturing both. It may be that you eat slowly together. It may be that you just hold space while you're waiting calmly for everyone to come back together, because these reduced stress hormones and a positive mindset, it lowers that cortisol level, which helps maintain the integrity of, that's right, the gut-brain lining. When you've got improved digestion, you're calm, you're positive. This is because your parasympathetic nervous system is able to step in and rest and digest. And this promotes better digestion, absorption of those nutrients, and an efficient gut modality, which we absolutely need for our neurodiverse children. Serotonin production is really important for our little guys, and about 90% of our body's feel-good transmitters are produced, that's right, in the gut. A positive mindset can encourage that serotonin production, which not only improves mood, but also enhances the gut and overall gut health. But when we take the time to be present and we're really aware, we can better listen to our bodies and understand what we truly need. But when you're a little person, that's really hard to do. So we as the parent need to notice that, need to observe that. Even if we haven't had a background in health and nutrition, we notice what our children are doing. We we observe their outcomes and how they're operating, bring it back to us, noticing, responding, holding space for them when they're not feeling the best versions of themselves. Here's some easy ways to incorporate mindfulness into your everyday lives. You can eat mindfully. You can slow down and savor each and every bite. You can pay attention to the flavors, to the textures, and how your body feels as you eat. This can improve digestion. Breath work. We're going to try one now. We're going to listen to all the sounds inside the room, inside the space where you are right now. Maybe it's bringing it back to your own breath, just noticing. Is your breath up here at the moment, or is it further down, right down here into your belly? And just noticing as the air comes in and out of your mouth. And breathing in and breathing out. And then take your awareness further out of the space where you're in to outside the room. Just noticing outside the room the sounds that you can hear. Take them further outside of your home. What sounds can you hear outside your home? Just noticing as you breathe in and out. Breathing in and out. Coming back into your home. Being aware of those sounds. Back into the room where you are now. Aware of your own breathing. Just noticing. Just being aware. And when you're ready, just giving yourself a shake all over and bringing yourself back into the body. You see, whenever you feel upset or overwhelmed, you pause. You breathe and you drop anchor into your body. And the more you model this for your children, the more they take it on as a practice that's normal. That's what they do to reset. Now, something you need to know is you don't always need to be sitting. I actually love to lie flat on the floor, because when we lie flat on the floor, all the meridians in our body are at ease. We're grounded. We're held weightlessly in time. And if you can do it in a forest, as in forest bathing, the benefits, I've got my little, as you can see, all my plants around me, the benefits are extraordinary. Forest bathing is incredible, especially for neurodiverse wonders, because they get to be in nature that they so desperately need. Another practice is a gratitude journal. Now, you can write in this, you can color in this, you can paint in this. It can be anything that your child is really keen to connect with, because together these practices create a feedback loop where gut health supports mental health well-being, and mental health well-being, you guessed it, nurtures gut health, which leads to improvement of all well-being. Now, a product range that I have observed firsthand in my teaching practice that assists rapid fire brains, so those are children who've been labelled with ADHD or black and white thinking, is Nrf1 and Nrf2. They're incredible products. But I just thought you'd like to know, coming back to our eldest son, well, Dr. Nicholas van der Geest, he obtained the highest PhD grading just last year. He now is a world leader in design engineering, working in Europe. He found what spun his wheels. We worked really hard together, and he dared to dream differently. So don't be persuaded into believing that your neurodiverse child is disadvantaged in any way by their diversity. These neurodiverse labels are superpowers. And with the correct support, guidance, and wraparound care, your child can achieve anything. Next slide, please. And when they do, that release is incredible. It's honestly a visible shift. It's as a part of them is set free. Nothing is like it the moment you see your child in that space of being seen, heard, and valued for who they are. That is absolutely gold. Next slide, please. Now we have our incredible Bridget Baker. She has an incredible mum with incredible children who I absolutely adore. And I have seen such vast difference in these wee wonders and their whole demeanour since Bridget found these incredible product range. Bridget, would you be happy to talk a little bit more for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Bron. And I can attest to the emotional supports and wellbeing supports that Bron has described. I was very fortunate to have my children being taught by Bron, and we just, as a family, we changed when we implemented these. In addition to that, I went through researching all the things I could find when my kids were diagnosed with their neurodiversity. So I kind of joke that I give the FBI a run for their money when it comes to researching. But I discovered I discovered a nutrigenomic approach. So we did the removing gluten, removing all the sugars, the dyes, and reducing milk as well. Made a huge difference in their gut health and their behavior. But then I found out about oxidative stress. So I just want to tell you a little bit about it because it was completely new to me. And it was really the game changer in finding this avenue of natural supports for our kids. So oxidative stress is basically an imbalance of free radicals, so the good guys, and bad guys, and antioxidants, which are the good guys. And when you have that balance, it leads to cell and tissue damage and dis-ease or inflammation. So I like to liken it with the analogy of a car. So if your cell is a car and over time it gets rusty, and that rust is the free radical damage and it creates oxidative stress. And so then the car doesn't work as well. But when you can reduce that oxidative stress or the rust, then everything operates better. And when you can have your cells operating better, the rest of your body operates better. And this was what led me down this path. And it was actually a friend who recommended this next product I'm going to talk to you about. She also had neurodiverse children, and we were in the same mums group, and she said, hey, look, I don't know if this is of interest to you, but my boy took this and we've seen great changes. So to be honest, we were so desperate at the time. We'd tried everything under the sun. We'd done Hardy's Daily Essentials. We had tried pine bark extract, the raft of other things, all the probiotics, but nothing kind of had that lasting change. So we went, okay, let's try this. And honestly, within 2 weeks, we saw our son's behavior just really settle. And he almost seemed like he was coming more into himself. He was a very high energy child. You would often he would be described as having ants in his pants and kind of everywhere. But this product here, so it's made of 5 herbs, so it's natural. That was a big tick for me. The ingredients are ashwagandha, milk thistle, green tea, bacopa, and turmeric. So a lot of those ingredients are steeped in indigenous wisdom in themselves. But the way that they're combined is really incredible. And they've actually been shown to reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. And part of the way it does this is that it boosts glutathione. And now glutathione is actually the master antioxidant. So that antioxidant that you get, when that increases, it starts neutralizing the oxidative stress. And then that's where the magic happened, because I just, you saw the inflammation reduce in his body. He seemed to have better clarity in his thinking. He wasn't so sensitive to the people around him, whether that be touching or sound. And that was 5 years ago now. And honestly, this has just completely changed the trajectory for our family. The other product I want to tell you about is Protandim Nrf1. So this one's designed to boost the energy in every single cell. Again, it's completely made up of natural ingredients, and it basically helps increase mitochondria production. So mitochondria are like the little energy or batteries in our cells. So when your batteries are low, then your cells can't operate as well as they normally would. So if you can power them up, then all your cells work as they should. And when you combine the two products, the company who makes this, LifeVantage, is so clever that they actually have this incredible synergistic effect. And they help, again, reduce free radicals. And again, my son, we just saw big differences. And even in myself, I, funnily enough, discovered I was neurodiverse through my children's journey. And both of these products have just helped me have more energy, better mental clarity, and I'm just a lot more productive, which is incredible. And the final product I want to tell you about is a nootropic drink. And so basically what that means, it's a drink that helps wake up your brain. It's made of vitamins and minerals. It's just a powder. You stir it into water. So for me, it was really great because my son didn't really love drinking water, and ensuring he was hydrated was actually quite difficult. So something that tasted good and had a positive effect was extra ticks for me. So this nootropic drink, it's designed to wake up the brain. It actually helps the neurotransmitters in your brain work better. So it's almost like food for your neurotransmitters. It's packed with vitamins B's, magnesium, asparagus extract, which is really interesting. It's almost like a little alphabet soup. It's got vitamin A, C, E, a few others that I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But again, this, I would see my son after about 20 minutes after having this, he was just a lot more focused. And I noticed this in myself. And we've even had my son ask for this in the morning on, those mornings where you're just trying to get your kids ready for school, and, they have other ideas, but also they're just really tired. And so for him, he would say, look, Mum, can I just have an Axio? And honestly, it was like he was woken up again, and he would just get ready so much better. Now, the next slides I want to show you is some results that I saw that made me want to try these products, as well as my friends' testimonials. But these are screenshots from a webinar that was done by Dr. Jeffrey Fannin, who's a US neuroscientist. And many years ago, he was working with a child who was a preteen, was his patient, and they had ADHD. Now, I'm not sure why they were doing these brain scans, but they did them before this child had Protandim Nrf2, Protandim Nrf1, and Axio, and then they did it again afterwards. Now you can see on the left the scan with all the bright colors, the reds and oranges. So that's before taking the three products, and you can see those colors actually indicate difficulty focusing and staying on task. Now just 12 days later, so almost 2 weeks, they did another brain scan, and this is the child's same scan. And the green coloring just basically shows that the thinking activity was now in a normal range. So we have felt this firsthand with our kids, which is why I'm so passionate about, sharing about these products, because they've just, there's this amazing science behind them, but we've also felt the benefits of it too. And there's just one other slide that Dr. Fannin has shared. Again, this is a coherence test showing energy and information pathways. So you can see on the left, it's kind of like if you imagine a radio station that's on static, and it's all just a little bit higgledy-piggledy, and there's no coherence in the thinking. And then again, 12 days later, the scan on the right, it just shows that the functioning is in normal range. So this is like turning your radio station on to the frequency that is on the radio station. So for us, what we see here is exactly what I've felt myself, and also what I've seen in my children. And I know Bron saw my child go through this, and we didn't actually tell school what we were doing because we were we'd been trying a few things along the way, and it was, I think, yeah, it was a couple of weeks in, and we had a chat, and Bron was saying, are you doing something differently at home? And that's when we started talking about these products. So that's my experience. And if anyone would like to know any more, please reach out to the person who invited you along here, because for me, information is power. And if I hadn't been looking for other alternatives that might not be seen to be traditional mainstream from the doctor, because a doctor didn't recommend these to us, yeah, I wouldn't have found it. And our family's kind of health trajectory wouldn't be as it is now. So yeah, that's my story. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
Awesome. And sorry, Bron, back to you.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that there are other students that I've seen taking the Axio powder. Now, they say for them, when they're not taking it, it's like every file inside their head is on, operating at 1,000,000 miles, and they can't shut down and just connect into one place. But as soon as they take this particular powder, theirs is the raspberry one, I believe, they say everything just flattens and they can focus on one area instead of having to be in 1,000,000 different places at once. And it's something that they're finding very, very supportive. So thank you, Bridget, for sharing and finding out about these particular product range that has made such a difference for so many of our really vulnerable neurodiverse learners. I, for one, am very grateful. And something I'd like to share, going back to that oxidative stress, recently I had a whole lot of blood tests done, and those results were sent off to Denmark. And I had a lot of particular markers about 7 years ago that were far too high to do with my a whole lot of different areas. They came back, and I am sure it's because of the first product that you were talking. I'd say it's a range of them, the collagen as well, that I take, because those markers are gone. They're not even in my blood work. And that's the only difference, is taking the Nrf1 and the collagen and Nrf2. It's a game changer. Once upon a time, I couldn't even get out of bed without being in agony. I had such severe damage, but we thought, okay, let's just put it to the test. My son said, let's go, Mum, let's get tested and find out what's actually going on. So off we went as a family, and we were all tested, and I came through as the very different test markers, and they all, I'm hopefully, are thinking and go, yeah, Mum, we need to be following what you're doing. Incredible outcome. Now I think I'm passing on to our incredible, am I passing back to you now, Bridget? No, I am passing on to Kate. Incredible. Captain Kadon, Education Advocate and Neurodiverse Academic Coach. Incredible human. Are you ready for us?
Hi, I am. Thank you. Thank you, Bridget and Bronwyn, for all your information and your experiences. So I'll just introduce myself. My name's Kadon Campbell, and I have been a teacher on and off for the past 30 years. And in the last nearly 10 years, 7, 8 years, I have left teaching, regular classroom teaching, to open my own practice of being an educational advocate and a neurodiverse academic coach. Now, my journey originally started with working with specifically children who are dyslexic. And if anyone is in that field of neurodiverse, we really understand that it is never just like a singular diagnosis. It's generally, if you might be dyslexic, you might also be ADHD, or you might be autistic, or a number of other things. But so over the years, I've developed a practice and a business to support those students trying to navigate the education system that currently exists and has existed for a very long time with very little change. So yeah, next slide. So So I'm excited. So I always think about it as navigating your child's workplace, which is what we call school. And what I try to explain to parents and to educators about my perspective is, as an educational advocate, I'm here to help the child, the student, the learner know and understand their profile, how their brain works, how they actually can be successful, what's happening for them in what we consider their workplace, school. They don't really get a choice. They have to go to school or even homeschooling. At the end of the day, this is kind of their work. And so trying to help the parents and the children understand when they're struggling, and helping them understand why they're struggling and figuring out the root cause of it is really critical. So next slide, please. So generally it's like, uh-oh, not again, trouble getting your child to school. The first sign that your child is struggling in this environment where they should be really happy and excited to go is when you have trouble getting your child to school. Many of the students I work with in families, whether they're 5 or 15 or 22, the first indicator that your child, whether they are diagnosed or not, is when they are struggling to get to school. Because as a given, children want to go to school. They love the idea of being at school. They want to be successful. That is their God-given kind of natural born way of being. And when they're not enjoying it or wanting to go to school, that is a real indicator. So one of the things I tell and try to teach everyone is the idea that all behavior is a form of communication. So what I try to do is find the root cause of what's going on, helping understanding your child and helping them understand themselves. Like, there must be some reason if they're not having a reasonable response. The reasonable response for us is that they would want to go to school. And if all of a sudden they're not wanting to go to school, they're like, I want us to be curious about what it is, why they're not going to school, and what we find out. So next slide, I think. And what we do is, once we find out what it is that's going on with your child and why they might not want to go to school, is trying to find out how to support your child in school. What is available during school, at school? Who do you reach out to at school? Teaching your child how to advocate for themselves. Now, one of the things that I try to encourage parents to do is go with your gut feeling. That's really tricky, because as a society, we have been trained and taught that the teachers, the school, they're the experts. And so we entrust them with our precious little human. And they say, oh, it might be, particularly when they're in the primary years, it's like, oh, they'll grow out of it. Oh, they're just a boy. It's, it'll be this, it'll be that. And they try to just kind of skim over it. But you yourself as a parent go, no, something's not quite right. They're not quite getting it. Whether you're a first-time parent or it's your third child, you kind of, your gut instinct tells you something's not right, but you trust the experts and they say, no, we'll wait until they're in year 3, let them in school for a while. And what I want to encourage my parents is that you know your child better than anyone. So if you feel like something's not right, there might be something not quite right. And then you need to find out, what can I do about this? Because the first point of contact is talking to your teacher. Often the teacher might be like, well, we'll just see. There's not that many problems. There might be this. He's just a boy. They're just learning, whatever the reasons that come along. And so what I want to encourage you to do and help guide parents is, who do you reach out to a school? You reach out to the teacher and they're thinking, oh, well, they're behaving okay at school. And you're like, yeah, they're behaving okay at school during school. But when they get home, they're an absolute nightmare. And you're thinking, why? What's going on? And as a parent, you're like, why? Because they've been stressed all day. They might have anxiety, and it comes out in the first, they might even make it to the car. But as soon as they get home in a space where they can release all that they've been holding in, is when they're in that space where they can feel safe enough to do it. And so if that's happening, that's a clue. That's a clue, and probably is confirming what you as a parent and your gut kind of feel like something's not quite right. So who can you reach out to school? Your first point of contact is going to be your teacher. If you're not getting any joy there, or you feel like they're not understanding what you're experiencing and maybe what your child's communicating, is to go and talk to their team leader, which is the next person if you're in primary school, Or if you'd like, you can often go to what we call the SINCO, which is the special needs kind of deputy principal, assistant principal at the school. Usually it's not a SINCO is not the sole job. They're usually deputy principal and a SINCO. There might even be a teacher, but there is someone who you can talk to that should understand, can understand, is more available to understand, and help you navigate what you're observing. What I try to do when I'm working with students, because the educational advocacy role, which is really the critical difference when I have when working with families, is helping them understand, like feeling into their body and going, oh, they might not like how something is happening at school. Maybe it's too loud. Maybe it's too noisy, particularly now when there's lots of what we call MLE school, which is the oh my gosh, learning environment. It's a multi-sensory kind of learning environment. And what it is, it's like those big classrooms where your two teachers are sharing a space of 60 kids, but there are two teachers. And there are a lot of new schools created these modern learning environments. And they have learned that it actually doesn't work for many neurotypical, and it's really stressful for our neurodiverse kids. So if I'm working with a family or a parent or a child and they're expressing some things and they may have a sensory issue. I mean, I was at a school recently and having a meeting, and while I was there, the bell rang, and their bell is this really loud song. So it's not like a bell sound, but it's a song. And I was like, wow, that is really loud, even in the office with the door closed. And I know that the student I'm working with at that school, she gets startled. Yet she's been there, she's year 6. She's been dealing with this 4 times a day, 5 times a day in the classroom with this really loud thing. And no one, it was a wonder why her nervous system was high, and she was very quiet and reserved, didn't really reach out, didn't ask questions, was struggling to communicate. You know, my first day in there, I was like, oh, wow. Have you ever tried those loop earbuds? And she says, yeah, I have some at home. And I said, well, let's ask and see if you can wear these at school. Yep. Asked the teacher. She said, I'll check with the management. She came back, said, yep, it's okay. She's wearing them now. It's been going now for like 2 weeks. She's been wearing them. And the difference it's made for her nervous system, it's helping your child feel comfortable asking those questions, knowing that it's okay to have their needs met, but also finding out what their need is. She knew she was sensitive to the loud sounds, even loud motor vehicles, yet she wasn't able to explain or ask or say, gosh, it's really loud for me. Can I do this? And it's teaching your child how to understand what is okay to ask, because often they don't want to ask any questions. Next slide, please. So they go through the whole day. Maybe you finally get them to school. They're at school all day and they're probably really good. And they get home and they're like this, exhausted. They can't do homework. They don't want to listen. They need some time for decompressing, things like that. And you're just going, oh my gosh, what's happened? This is not the child I knew before he started attending school or before she started attending school. So when your child comes home, we're going back to the same idea of what happens, why they weren't wanting to go to school. We'll find out the root cause of what's happening. Why at the end of the day are they struggling? Are they too tired? Are they grumpy? Is it because they didn't eat? Is it because their nervous system was out of whack because of all of the sound? Was it because they couldn't understand anything, like that the directions, too many directions? If you're ADHD and there are multiple types of ADHD, you might be too distracted and can't take in 3 directions. You can only take in one. By the time you take in the one, they've gone on to the next one. And then you get this level of frustration from that. It's trying to understand what the root cause of their outburst, their anxiety, their meltdown at the end of the school day, and helping them and you understand what's happening for them. Once you find out what the root causes are, then you can kind of look and say, oh, I'm curious as to, like, my kid on the weekends doesn't act like this, but definitely after school. And maybe it's certain days. Maybe there are certain days of school that he comes home or she comes home and it's more difficult on a Tuesday or Friday, or maybe it's on a particular day. You might then look at what was happening in the school on that day, generally speaking. Maybe it's PE because they don't like PE and there's lots of movement, lots of noise. Maybe those are more stressful days. And if they're in high school, it might be because, you know, they're dyslexic and they're struggle with their reading and writing. So if they're having a heavy academic day, that puts a lot of pressure on them to be able to read and write and understand lots of content. Those days will be more tiring for them on days when they're actually in classes that they're doing building and construction or dance or PE or things that are more hands-on. And then you start calculating and looking at the patterns of what days are they having a more difficult time than other? What days are they more okay than other days? And again, it's learning and listening to all behaviors and realize that all behavior is communication. Whether they're really happy, like, wow, I wonder what kind of day they had. What happened today that they were really happy? Well, maybe they don't really like their teacher and they had a reliever who got them. And you're thinking, wow, that's amazing. Or maybe it might be a day where they had a reliever and it was a really tough day because things were out of whack. So things weren't the way they were meant to be or the way they always are used to being. So what you do is you go, okay, well, on the days we know they're going to have a reliever, we're going to make sure that the school is aware of it and find ways to create a system or space for them to be able to regulate when it is. Otherwise, what we do is we don't set them up for success, we set them up for failure. So for us as a parent or as an advocate is to be really curious about finding out and understanding what their behaviors are trying to communicate. One of the things I tell parents and I try to explain to even the children is, do you know that often the reason they communicate through their behaviors is they haven't yet had the experience or the language to communicate what it is that's happening for them. It could even, and that is really critical, whether they're year 1 or whether in year 12, they may not have had enough experience understanding their profile. So they don't have the language to say, I don't like this because of this. They could just be angry and not understand that. They could be anxious and not want to go to school, but they don't know why. So being curious, finding out from the school, if there's a school counselor, the Cinco, if as a parent, you're finding out struggling yourself because you're the parent and you're like, I know it's not going well. And they're just frustrated and angry with me because I'm quick questioning them and they need a break. It might be well worth it reaching out to a specific neurodiverse advocate, counselor who has experience and understanding around the language that they might be able to offer to your child or to you to help you understand how they can communicate what it is that's really happening for them. Next slide. So as I've been saying through the whole period that I've been speaking and sharing my understanding is all behavior is a form of communication. If nothing else, I'd like you to take that away with you, thinking if my child is really happy, wow, what are they, why they're communicating something that's they're feeling good. Is it the environment? Is it the people? Is it the food I ate? Is it that? Is if they're not doing well and they're losing the plot every day after school or on certain days or going to an event, you know, like maybe like they really like tennis, but now all of a sudden they don't. Well, that's odd. I wonder why. So for me, all behavior is a form of communication. And if you don't understand what they're communicating, you have to be curious. So for me, it's learning to be curious without being reactive. And that's challenging for us as parents of neuro. My own son was neurodiverse, and I didn't realize he was until he was much older. But, you know, I'm a teacher by profession, and my natural go-to would be to scaffold what's happening. So when he had a period of time in his life when he felt like all his teachers hated him, I was like, oh no, let's find out what's going on. And I went and I stepped in, but that not every parent has that education background, doesn't have that professional learning or training or experience. But as a parent who doesn't, you just think to yourself, oh, okay, something's not right, or something is going really well, and find out what it is and help them develop the language. And you might need some guidance to reach out to someone who has that experience. So thank you very much. I'm really honored to have been here to be a part of this. And the last thing is, I would like to say, like attracts like. Building, one of the reasons we've created this forum, doing it online or in-person events, is because this idea of like attracts like, building community with those who have been on or are on your child's academic and well-being journey. One of the things that we want to do is, whether or not things we said resonated with you, one or two things, is we kind of create a community. I realized that if you weren't on this Slack call live, that, and you have the replay, know that many people are in the same boat as you. And like attract likes means like someone else understands where you're at and what you're going through, understands the struggles you've had with formal education, understands that you've had no joy, and maybe you are homeschooling, or maybe you are finding support, or maybe you don't know what to do next. And it's really great to start connecting with people like the people at Team Elevate or in this forum, so that you can reach out to, whether it's Bridget or myself or Bron or someone else, so that you can have a sense of community, so that you're not alone. Because like they've always said, it takes a village, and we don't have the village the way we did when our parents' parents were parenting. We have to create that now, because kids from all different areas go to schools. But this is a space where we can build that community for you. That's why you're here, because you must have a neurodiverse person in your life, whether it's your child, yourself, or your partner, or your siblings, or someone in your family, or a dear friend. So this is a great space for you to reach out to anyone or someone who you've connected with, to find yourself in this on this journey, and to find those others that can help you understand and find solutions. And if nothing else, find support for yourself and support for those that need it, and know that you can be seen and heard. And yes, like Bron said, be accepted and be like, that's just what it is, and find joy and success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kadon. It's absolutely amazing to have two such experienced and heart-based educators join us today. So I'm just going to add us all to Spotlight, and if anybody's got any questions, you can fire away. Thank you so much.